I'm usually uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear the word budget. Budget. Budget? Budget. I don't want to hear the word budget. Hey y'all, it's your girl Key Simone and welcome back to my channel and the last installment of my Baddie Glow Up Series, where every weekend this month I posted a new video where I talked about all the ways in which I have glowed up my life this year. If you have not seen the first 3 videos, go watch it, because in today's video we are wrapping up the series with how I glowed up my finances in 2024, because the way I started this year financially is not the way I ended this year financially, thank God. So let's get into it. So I have to be very honest with you guys. I wasn't as honest as I should have been in my first video when I talked about how I manifested my luxury DC apartment, because what I did not share was the reason why I spent the almost 2 months living at home was because my credit was not good enough for me to get approved for a new apartment. Even though I was making 6 figures, had never missed a bill, and had pretty good, just like general credit history outside of my credit score, my credit score was too low for me to get approved, and I was considered a liability to property management companies. And it was, let me tell you, a very humbling experience. There is nothing like having to share a bathroom with your 5-year-old niece because you cannot financially get approved to rent an apartment, not because of how much money you make, but because how low your credit score is. And not to get into too many details because I want to be honest, but also like not tell all of my business, I was a victim of identity theft, and I had known I was a victim for many years, and I basically just ignored it. So if you're watching this video, this is a cautionary tale. If you are a victim of identity theft, it's actually pretty easy to clear your name and get your credit history cleared. Do not do what I did and ignore it for almost a decade. I felt like it wasn't stopping me from renewing my lease at my apartment. It wasn't stopping me from getting jobs. It wasn't stopping me from making money. It wasn't stopping my life. My mom had been telling me for years, you need to just write a letter to the credit bureaus and let them know what the situation is, because you have a ton of proof. I had police reports, I had email documentation, I had written documentation, I had bank statements, I had proof that I wasn't the person taking out these delinquent bills in my name, but I just felt like, oh, I'll get to it. And the thing is, you need credit to get a new apartment. I had been in my same apartment for almost 8 years. You need credit to get car loans. I don't have a car. You need credit to get just bank loans. There was no reason for me to get a loan from the bank. Even with Afterpay, they weren't checking your credit. So I was fine in living my life until I wasn't. When I actually applied to this apartment, I was denied because I did not pass the credit check. And even though I communicated with the property management what was going on, they're like, we use a third-party company. Even though we know your personal story, they don't, and they don't care. You're not approved. Come back to us when you are. And that is just the honest truth. So while I would like to say I was just inspired and motivated to fix this myself, I really wasn't. I was given no choice, because if I didn't want to live in my mother's house for the next 6 months, I had to get this figured out. And even though I feel traumatized by my entire moving experience with the whole pest issues with having moved back home, this really was the universe pushing me to do better and be better, especially financially. And I did try at times to communicate with bill collectors about the fact that my identity was stolen, but never with the credit bureaus. And that's really who matters, because bill collectors don't care anything about your identity being stolen. They just want their money. And it really took me having a conversation with my dad about a certain bill that was stopping me from getting approved. And I was like, they're only asking for $1,000. I have $1,000 in savings. I will just pay it. And he was like, you better not do that. You need to fight this. Just write the credit bureau. So between my mom and my dad in my ear, I found, I was like, okay, let me just sit down. I collected all my evidence. I wrote a letter basically detailing and explaining everything that had happened over the years. I had dates, I had times, I had all the information. I put that in a certified mail envelope and I shipped that off. And I kid you guys not, within a week, they say it could take up to 10 days. Within a week, they had cleared all the delinquent charges off of my credit report. My credit went up by like 200 points. I had been in like the low 500s for a really long time. And before that, I was in the mid 400s. Like my credit was abysmal, for real, embarrassing. And within a week, by just sending one packet of evidence to one credit bureau, I was able to get at least with Experian, because you know there's three. So there's Experian, there's TransUnion, and there's, I don't know the third one. I was able to show all my evidence, and they were actually cleared me of all delinquent charges, and my credit score went up to about 700 points. And I really am disappointed in myself that it took me so long to just send that letter, because my mom had been literally telling me for years. She had been sending me templates, she had been sending me links, she had been encouraging me to do it, but I was an adult, so the only person who could do it was me, and I just like didn't do it. You know what I mean? And even though my very low credit score did not stop me from renewing my lease or getting a job or anything like that, it did stop me from really building my credit outside of the one credit card that I had from USAA that had a limit of $500 that I've had since I was like 24 years old, that had remained maxed out for many years. Like, I got to a point where the credit card expired and they sent me a new one, and I didn't even notice it because I hadn't even used it. That's a point where I didn't charge anymore on it, but I just didn't pay on it. Again, do not be like me. Everything that I'm telling you guys that I was doing is terrible, okay? I recognize that, okay, if I'm gonna fix my credit, I need to fix my credit across the board. So the first thing I did was actually paid down that credit card so that it would no longer be maxed out. I figured out how much of the 500 would be the 30% usage. Like, technically you're supposed to pay your credit card down every month, but listen, I'm not a billionaire, okay? Like, I'm gonna do the best I can do. I can give you 30% usage on it, right? So I figured out what the 30% usage of that 500 payment would be, and then I put that in my calendar to remind me every single month so I never miss a payment, okay? And then the next thing I did, now that my credit was significantly higher, was I actually applied for another credit card, because the credit card I had already had from USAA had no type of benefits. There was no you earn points, there was no you earn cash back, nothing, miles, nothing. So with this new credit card, I wanted something that would allow me to get some type of benefits from it, because again, shopaholic, I'm swiping. I'm using my debit card for everything and I'm not getting any benefits from it. I ended up going on NerdWallet because they do this great thing where you kind of put your information in and it gives you an option of a whole bunch of credit cards that you could qualify for. So versus me just finding some random credit card company and then applying it and getting denied and it affecting my credit, I wanted to see what my options were. I applied to it. I got kind of like pre-approved. I didn't get all the benefits. It did give me a decent limit of about $3,000, and I do get points for every purchase that I make that I can then, do I get points or miles? I think I get miles. I don't know. And I basically was paying on it every single week, which is kind of asinine, but because I'm chronically online, I see all the TikToks about people who got into insane amount of credit card debt. And I didn't really understand how people were getting into credit card debt the way they were. And so I got a credit card with a higher limit because it is easy. It is extremely easy to get into credit card debt. It's a slippery slope, okay? The better your credit, the more credit they give you, and the more money you're going to spend. Even if you have money already, you're going to spend it. I want to stay on top of making sure that my credit card was closing at that 30% usage. And because I was doing such a good job at that, they actually increased my limit. And I'm definitely really learning how to have a credit card and like be responsible with a credit card. If I had not fixed my credit, I would not have been able to do that. Another thing that I was able to do, though, I will say, living with my mom, I talked about this in my first video of the series, is I was able to save quite a bit of money moving into my new apartment. And because I saved more than I needed, I actually had a nest egg of like $3,000 just sitting in my savings account. So when it came to paying all of these additional utilities, like water, gas, and sewage, and then my storage unit that I had nest egg savings that I could use towards those monthly bills where I didn't have to take that money from my paycheck. So I actually did not start paying those utilities out of my pockets, out of my bi-weekly paychecks until last month. And that was a game changer for me. Now I will say, like I said in the first video, that was a luxury. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to move back home and save the way that I did, and I acknowledge that, but I'm grateful that I did because it saved me so much money, okay? Another financial thing that I prioritized was getting my student loans paid off. No matter how much money you make, you need to call those people up and say, hey, I can't afford these payments, these monthly payments. What can we do? Can I get on a better plan? I'm telling you, no matter how much money you make. Because the thing is, even when you make six figures, you'll have other bills. So you get on that phone and you run down all the money that you shell out every month towards other bills. You say, I pay this much in rent, I pay this much in taxes, I pay this much in utilities, I pay this much for cable, I pay this much for electricity. And I'm telling you, I was able to get my monthly payments decreased to where it was more affordable for me, where it was not breaking my pockets. And it's made such a difference for my life financially. Another big thing that I did financially this year was put some of my bills on automatic payments. And I feel like you really know financially comfortable when you can put certain bills on automatic payments because you know the money's there, you don't have to worry about it. I have my electricity bill on automatic payment and I have my cable bill on automatic payment because those are bills that I tend to forget about. I remember one time they're like, yeah, we're about to cut your electricity off because you haven't paid your bill in 5 months. I was like, that's not possible. I definitely have paid my bill. They're like, no, you haven't. I was like, oh shit. I have not paid my bill. Not because I didn't have the money, I just like don't think about it because like it's not like how it is in the movies where like if you don't pay electricity bill in a day, they cut your electricity off. That's not how that works in real life, right? So like they will let you go quite a few months without payment before they actually threaten to cut it off or like inform you that they might cut it off. These are not bills that need to be bogging me down, that need to be hindering me financially. So what I did was I put both those bills on automatic payment. I don't think about it. I don't worry about it, and it's made my life so much easier. And honestly, I think the biggest change that I've made around finances this year is just how I am approaching finances. I have always lived my life financially knowing that I could afford my bills, and that's all that mattered. My rent was paid, my utilities were paid for the most part, and I was still able to enjoy all the luxuries that I had with no problem. Have there been times where money has been a little bit tight than others? Yes. But do I have side hustles that help me offset it? Yes. So I just never really worried about it. And I knew I need to be a little bit more militant and a little bit more intentional about how I'm spending money and how I'm approaching money. But I was just like, life is fine. Until life wasn't, okay? Everything about the way last year ended humbled me and pushed me to do better and be better. And so the way that I even talk about finances is much different. I'm usually uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear the word budget. 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 I don't want to hear the word budget. Let's be honest. It got to a point where I'm just like, okay, but you no longer have the option to not have those tough conversations with yourself, with who you are doing life with about finances. And so that has definitely been a journey for me this year. I'm definitely more aware of how much money is going out. One of the big things I've been working on is spending way less money on eating out. I can cook, but I fake don't love to cook. And I also just feel like my lifestyle is not set up to where I'm coming home and cooking a full meal every single day, or even being at home and cooking a full meal every single day. So a lot of times I would just order Uber Eats. I'm talking like ordering Uber Eats lunch, dinner, breakfast every single day for weeks at a time while I have food in my house. I would even go to the grocery store walking home from work, spend $150 at the grocery store, and do nothing with those groceries because I'm just ordering Uber Eats. Insane. And so when I moved into this new apartment, I was like, you have to be a lot more intentional about cooking for yourself and meal prepping and not spending so much money eating out. So the good thing about my new place is there is a farmer's market that is available to me every single weekend that I can go and shop at to get all of my fresh produce and vegetables for much cheaper. They are much healthier and last a lot longer. And I just go to the grocery store to get my meats and my snacks, and I meal prep. And I know a lot of people don't like leftovers or eating the same thing over and over again, but it has saved me so much money. Also, like looking at my bank statements. Like, I don't even think that's something that I ever considered, but like, I never just looked at my bank statements. Like, cause I knew that I spent the money, right? Unless I looked at my bank, was like, well, damn, like, why is there only this much money in there instead of this much money? Then I might go look and see kind of like, where did you spend the money at? But for the most part, like, I didn't look at my bank statements because like, I know I swiped that card. So if the money's gone, the money's gone. But when I got my credit card, it's like a new shiny thing. You're trying to understand it. It's like a new banking interface, right? Because where I got my credit card is not where I bank at, like with my savings and my checkings. So I'm like constantly now looking at my bank statements and really paying attention to where my money is going and saying to myself, did you need to spend $300 at TJ Maxx and Home Goods? Or could you have kept that $300 in your account? And even though this year is over, I do have some goals and intentions I want to set for 2025. So I do want to actually stop using things like Afterpay and Klarna. I was never able to use Affirm because my credit wasn't good enough. Thank God, because you can do big purchases on Affirm, and like I did not even have access to that. But I do use Afterpay a lot, and I also do use Klarna at times if Afterpay is not an option. And I'm at a point where I'm almost exclusively using my credit card for all of my everyday purchases. So the only money that comes out of my checkings account is Afterpays and Klarnas. It just feels like, why am I spending money on my credit card but also spending money on my checkings from Afterpays and Klarnas when I can just be putting that on my credit card? And I think if I use my credit card, I actually would use Afterpay way less because I would see the amount of money stacking up. The thing about Afterpay is, because it's spread out, you're not realizing how much you really owe. And honestly, the biggest thing that I'm trying to do next year financially is really curve my shopping. Now that I've done this huge wardrobe overhaul, I feel like I have more than enough clothes. I do not want to continue to just be shopping because I'm bored, which is what I do. I do not want to continue to just buy stuff that I'm not going to use. And that's everything from clothes to trinkets to makeup. I really want to crack down on myself in terms of my shopping because I think it could save me so much more money. So those are like all the things that I've been able to prove on financially this year and all the things that I hope to work on next year. I hope that this Glow Up series was helpful for those of you who are watching. I've been loving your comments and your feedback, and y'all let me know if y'all want me to do something similar like this in the future. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.